Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Thursday, January 11th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, Matt Robinson with you, ready to break down the Thursday NHL card. A big one, as usual, on a Thursday. We've got ourselves 13 NHL games taking place tonight. We'll break those down in just a moment. But first things first, Alex, welcome back. You were off yesterday. Yep. We had a great reunion with Ray Bryce yesterday, and he gave us a great lowdown on the way things are going in Europe. And I'm telling you what, I learned some things listening to our guy Ray Bryce, friend of the show yesterday. What a fucking grind it can be playing lower level pro hockey over in Europe. I mean, my goodness, it's tough. It's not easy. It's culture shock. It's coaches that sometimes, hate your guts. And he's had that over in Hungary the first part of the season. And as he get to the German league, and now the team's struggling and probably not going to make the playoffs. And he's at a point in his life where he's wondering what's going to be next for him. So those are the people you sympathize with. Literally, the hockey player version, Alex, of pounding the pavement. That's what Ray Bryce is doing right now.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. We talk about it, and of course, we've had all these different players on over the last couple of years. Like you said, guys that are playing for the love of the game and grinding it out at some of these lower levels, the SPHL, the ECHL, going over to Europe. And so you think about, the grind of the minor leagues here in North America. So just imagine the grind of the minor leagues in Europe, where I'm sure amenities aren't nearly as of a higher standard, pays different, everything's different. So like you said, it's truly for the love of the game, and salute to Ray and salute to all the guys, especially all of the exports, the North American guys who are going over there away from their families and still trying to grind out a career. It's commendable. And, like I said, it's you feel for these guys because, you understand how much they love the game and want to continue playing, but at the same time, they have to kind of weigh those options. And it's a different life and a different world. So, kudos to all the guys that are battling out season after season doing that.
Just trying to make a dollar, the best dollar you can make, the biggest dollar you can make. And you love playing the sport so much and the game so much, you want to keep it going. And the Ray Bryce's tale is very similar, to what a lot of people go through. And, Matt plays still, of course, at the semi-pro level. And Matt, I'm sure you do it. You love the game. You love to lace up those skates, have the team environment around you, and that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, most definitely. It's definitely the team vibe, the locker room, the post game. Obviously, senior A is, pretty low level. It's more for fun at this point. But yeah, I had a lot of buddies go through juniors, major juniors, college, and then go play overseas. Some of them have had great experiences. I have a good buddy from Dallas that's playing in the Swedish Hockey League for Rogel, obviously playing at the highest level. He was like an ECHL, AHL guy and just, a little more money and able to do really well over there. But yeah, the stories of the guys grinding in the lower levels, usually great stories, but yeah, you feel for them for sure from a sympathy standpoint. And they're doing it for the love of the game. They get to travel and live overseas, but they are away from family. They're not making millions of dollars, but, they definitely get to have some good experiences. So, yeah, it was awesome to see him on yesterday.
Yeah, no doubt. And we wish him well, and he'll be back on with us definitely later in the season. Just briefly on last night, because we got a shit ton of games we got to get to on this Thursday card. So it's just going to be a small recap. Bravo by the Flyers last night. Rally back from a 2-0 deficit to win 3-2 last night in a shootout. Frustrating beat for me with this over on the show yesterday with the Habs on the Flyers. Best bet, and it's looking great in that first period at 2-1 for Montreal, but only a Flyer tying goal from Morgan Frost on the power play. And by the way, the power play has been wretched for the Flyers this season, especially lately, and they finally get a power play goal last night. And wouldn't you know it, the new Flyer had a hand in it. Jamie Drysdale with a lovely play, to keep that play alive for the power play goal and get his first point as a member of the Philadelphia Flyers in that 3-2 win last night. So a good win. He played very well in his Flyers debut. But the headlines, I guess, after the game were, well, first of all, earlier in the day regarding the Cutter Gauthier stuff, he said in an Anaheim Ducks podcast that was welcoming him to the team that this notion that Kevin Hayes told him, some bad things about the Tortorella, the coach, the team, whatever, and influenced his decision to be traded out of Philadelphia was just BS. It wasn't true. He basically said Kevin Hayes had nothing to do with my decision to basically get traded and request to leave Philadelphia. He didn't influence my decision either way. It was perpetuated by a rumor and someone that does a Flyer podcast claiming that he had a source that was telling him that Kevin Hayes influenced Cutter Gauthier's decision to request a trade. Cutter denied it. And then, of course, Tortorella saw the reporter who, basically thought he had that source and had it correct and basically gave him hell for it, which was a great last night and stuck up. And what I love about what Tortorella said is that Kevin Hayes and him were always that was a fraught relationship with the player and the coach when Kevin Hayes was a member of the Flyers. He benched Kevin Hayes many times. There were many times that relationship just wasn't working. Hayes wasn't playing the way Torts wanted him to. And I'm sure Hayes probably felt that, hey, it's the coach kind of not giving me a fair shake at the end. And you know how that can just devolve and erode a relationship. And that definitely happened. And sure enough, of course, Hayes gets dealt to St. Louis and he's no longer a Flyer. And yet, despite the working relationship, roller coaster and rocky road that it was between Torts and Hayes, Torts still thought enough of the man and the human being that is Kevin Hayes to come to his defense last night and with those false allegations that he influenced that trade and stand up for him and call him, he's a good man. We had our issues. He's a good guy. He doesn't deserve to be put through this. And now because he's been put through this, you got this insanity here with death threats and all this shit that, which is just insane now. We're seeing this across the board now where it's just people are just so sick in the head in 2024, especially when they're using social media, and they'll just threaten anybody that they feel, has done them wrong or has, requesting a trade from a team. I get you're pissed at Cutter Gauthier, and you would be pissed if you assumed, which you apparently did incorrectly, that what the report was that Kevin Hayes influenced the trade, you'd be upset with Kevin Hayes too. But that doesn't mean you threaten anybody with death threats. It's ridiculous. It's totally asinine. It's uncalled for. It shouldn't be something that is allowed to be tolerated in this society. And it's just disappointing we see that shit every time a fan gets their back up. Let's threaten the player. Let's threaten the coach. Let's threaten, someone in the organization. It's just ridiculous. And I wish I could say it's got to stop. I wish I can say it will stop. It's probably not going to, because there are truly some sick and demented people out there. And it's really, that's all you can say. And unfortunately, I don't know if anything's going to change in that regard. But it was well handled by Torts. I applaud him for coming to Kevin Hayes' defense there, despite the fact that, like I said, their business relationship didn't end on the best of terms. That was wonderful to see. And then quickly, the other games, brutal night for Minnesota and Jesper Wallstedt in his NHL debut. Credit Terry Edelman. And I know he's smiling. Matt, the Stars fan, he should be 7-2, beat down over the Wild. I'll tell you what, Terry can be a little emotional, sometimes too emotional about his team. We've all seen that before. But I will say about him is that he knows his team. And he said it a couple of days ago. I saw one of his posts. It's that, he thought that Wallstedt shouldn't have been given this start against Dallas last night. And sure enough, kind of looked that way. He probably shouldn't have been in there. It's a tough spot to put him in there. And it was a rough night, but it was bad all around. I mean, Minnesota's given up odd man rushes, breakdowns galore. I mean, letting, multiple Stars players just in on the goalie one-on-one. You just can't have that happen. And you're going to have a rough night, especially when you have the finishing ability that some of the Stars players do. And we saw it last night in that 7-2 game. And then a very impressive, I thought it was a domination. And if not for the performance of Yuri Patera, who was very good, I thought, for Vegas last night. Could have been 6-0 Colorado. They dominated that game start to finish, and a nice, solid 3-0 shutout win for the Avs last night in that game. And a tough beat for me with Drouin. How many fucking chances did Drouin have to score a goal last night? And there I am with plus 260. He's hitting posts. He's missing wide open nets. And I'm like, oh my gosh, man, fucking put it in. Finish one of these damn things. And he just couldn't do it last night. Alex, thoughts on the Wednesday card?
Yeah, so like I said, that Wild Stars game, a crazy one. Obviously, once again, not being able to cash the first period over, and we saw a goal called back early in that contest. Would have made it 1-0 Dallas. Minnesota's video team reviewed it over, saw that it was offsides, but puck don't lie. Dallas ended up getting that goal right back. So it's kind of unfortunate. We probably could have been looking at another first period over and a 2-0 Dallas lead. Instead, it's 1-0, and then the floodgates open from there. And, it's like, Terry, shout out to him. He called that, saying Wallstedt should have got the start. And I also kind of agreed. I thought Wallstedt should have gotten the start at home. Give him that debut in front of the home crowd. There's a ton of Wild fans here who have been anticipating seeing this kid for a while. And I think that momentum would have kind of fed over, and we probably, more than likely would have seen the Wild win that game at home. They weren't going to win that game in the second of a home and home in Dallas anyway. But the reason they got trounced was throwing a young goalie in there on the road, fairly hostile territory. And we saw the same pace that we did in that first contest, same chippiness, but Dallas was able to take control of that. And that's how they do at home. That's why they're one of the top teams in the Western Conference. So big 7-2 win for them. It's something they need to do, get that offense rolling, but now you need to keep it a bit more consistent. Matt, I'm sure you could agree with me with that. You want to see some more consistent 4, 5, 6 goal efforts tonight, especially from a guy like Jason Robertson, who, we know the talent that he has, but he needs to really string it together. I want to see him go on a roll with getting 4 goals in the next 5 games, 8, 10 points in the next 6 or 7 games. He needs to get on that kind of a roll, in my opinion. So big win for them. You look at that, Colorado-Vegas game. I had the team total over 3.5. Really like that spot, especially with Yuri Patera and net. Like I said, he played very well. And, knew Colorado was going to come in, steaming hot, especially after how that last game against Vegas went. But Patera held the door down to get the win, but don't get 4 or more goals there, unfortunately. So that's just one of those kind of tough beats. You just got to chalk it up and move on to the next day. And, of course, we see yet another draw cash with that matchup at Philly and Montreal. So, Ian says that the draw day keeps the doctor away. We got the draw season hoodies fully in stock over at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. So definitely check that out. And just to kind of, wrap up one last thing with the Cutter Gauthier thing, and hopefully we can kind of put this to rest. One, I had completely forgotten the fact that he had not signed a contract this whole entire time, that he had informed them in May and that nothing signed. So we should have kind of already been seeing along that a trade was going to happen at some point if he wasn't going to sign. So this shouldn't have really been as, just completely shocking to everybody. But then the second part too is when you mentioned about with Tortorella, kudos to him getting all over the reporters who were trying to, get that scoop and saying that this was Kevin Hayes talking about. And when I was kind of listening to that and I'm thinking, well, okay, even if Kevin Hayes didn't say it, but how many times on just this program alone have we talked about, John Tortorella? When we heard John Tortorella was coming back to, Tortorella really going to bring in, old Tortorella. We've heard all the different things of how he rubs players the wrong way, how his voice gets lost in the room. And that's the reason why we've seen the exits we've seen from him in his previous tenures. And so it's not, a secret or anything that there's a lot of players who don't like John Tortorella, that John Tortorella is a kind of a tough coach to work with. We've heard that, and we've been saying that the last 20 years. So before this kid was even alive, we've been hearing about John Tortorella being a hard-ass coach to deal with. So that if that influenced it, maybe it's because we've all been talking about it for years and years. It didn't have to be Kevin Hayes. Probably wasn't watching this program, but I'm sure he heard it somewhere from somebody multiple times that Tortorella's a hard coach to deal with, and maybe that influenced it more than anything else. So, it doesn't matter now. He's in Anaheim, and Jamie Drysdale, like I said, hopefully helping out that power play is now in Philly. But like I said, there's clearly signs here the whole entire time that, well, maybe this is not as shocking of news as it was when it broke 48, 72 hours ago.
No, you could read the tea leaves and you could see that Cutter Gauthier was never really totally locked in and invested to be a Philadelphia Flyer long term. There's no question about that. And it's like, you're right. We're not splitting the atom. You're figuring out that John Tortorella and players that he's coached in the past have had some issues, have had bumped heads. And there's guys that have just not been cut out to play for John Tortorella, and they can't take the tough love and the hard-ass coaching and that's sometimes where the relationships splinter. But at the end of the day, the root of it all was shown in that press conference last night, that deep down inside that rough exterior, that rough, tough exterior, there's a care for the player and the human being and the individual for John Tortorella. For even the ones like a Kevin Hayes, where there was just a bad relationship working-wise, player and coach. And he still said, good man. He shouldn't have to go through this bullshit right now today with these false allegations. And he said that even though they had those issues working-wise. And that tells you all you need to know. Mike Babcock ain't doing that. Mike Babcock's a bully. Mike Babcock is an arrogant prick. He's an absolute douchebag. And he does not care for the player. That has been on full display in the past. He'd rather humiliate a player So that's why this Torts-Babs comparison over the years is a bunch of garbage. Okay. Yes, Torts is tough coach, demands a lot, but he demands a lot because he pushes the player to be the best fucking NHLer that they can be. Deep down inside, there's a care for the human being. There's not that shit with Babcock. I can tell you that. But with Tortorella, there is. That's the difference. So stop the comparisons with Babcock and Torts. I still saw that the other night. Someone said Babcock and Torts cut from the same cloth. You must be kidding me. There's at least a care for the individual and the person and the human being with Torts. Simple, period.
The difference between business and personal is Tortorella and Babcock. It's business with Tortorella.
Yeah. 100%. Matt, thoughts on last night?
Yeah, and just to reiterate that, I thought Torch did a great job with his response. And when you say business and, personal life, if you want to talk shit about Kevin Hayes because he missed a backdoor open net, go for it. He's a professional athlete. Once you start getting personal, I hate the keyboard warriors on social media. They're everywhere. Like Ian mentioned, I don't think they're going anywhere, but I wish they would. As far as last night goes, won't have too much to add to what you guys both said. I did have the over in that Montreal-Philly game after the first period. I pretty much tuned into the Stars game, figured I hit that one. So that was unfortunate to see it go to OT, but it's good for the draw.
Good for the draw, but I wanted that over at more than the draw.
Yeah, for
draw
sure.
Help minimize the damage, though, I will say.
And then coming into the Stars-Minnesota game, Minnesota's just banged up. I have some good Minnesota fan friends that are like, yeah, congrats on beating an AHL team. I don't know if I'd take it that far. They're less banged up than maybe Chicago right now. But you can tell they're overplaying guys that wouldn't typically be in those positions. And the first period over didn't hit. It should have. Dallas had 10 chances. They had that call back, but it really did just look like a dominant Dallas game, which they need to do. They need to string a couple dominant performances together, especially with Ottinger. Looks like he's practicing, so he should be back soon. Miro out of the lineup. It's good to see them kind of just get those dominating games and the games that they should. So hopefully they keep that rolling into Nashville and then Chicago as well. And then in that late game, I was on the same thing. I thought the team total over was a lock before the game. And then when I saw Aiden Hill was out, I was like, perfect. This is free money. And it should have been. The goaltender that came in for Vegas played great. I think the Avs maybe hit 5 or 6 posts in the first 2 periods. Like I thought I could have hit in the first period maybe. But it was a great game. It was a lot of back and forth. Vegas had their chances as well. But at the end of the day, I think, Colorado is the better team right now, just given the injuries and what's going on in Vegas. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the slate yesterday. I thought it was 3, exciting games. Obviously, the Dallas, Minnesota, not as exciting for the average fan, but exciting for me.
Exciting for you. Exactly.
But the other 2, to have an overtime game, to have, a back and forth game in Colorado and Vegas, good hockey. TNT crew, knocked it out of the park per usual. I'm watching my favorite team play, and I'm excited that the period just ended so that I can see, the intermission broadcast. So, they're doing a good job.
Oh, beyond good. It's absolutely outstanding with Liam, Biz, and Anson and Hank last night. Although Hank's chair is rotating. He's usually Hank, but sometimes when Hank can't do it, it's Colby Armstrong. You'll get Keith Yandel every now and then, and of course Gretzky whenever he decides it's his night to be on TNT. So, it's a great panel, though.
The only time you could ever say Gretzky's a 4th liner.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's mostly Gretzky and Lundqvist, and then you in that 4th panel chair, and then occasionally when it's neither of them, it's Colby Armstrong or Keith Yandel. That seems to be the usual rotation. So interesting Wednesday night, but let's get into Thursday because it is a huge card, and we will begin in Montreal. San Jose Sharks, Montreal Canadiens. Montreal minus 160, home favorites. 6 being the total here, shaded to the over. In this game. This is, of course, back-to-back for these Montreal Canadiens after losing in a shootout to the Flyers last night in Philadelphia. So back-to-back situation for them going into this game. San Jose is horrendous. It's absolutely god-awful hockey team again. Not that they ever weren't, but they did at least have a little stretch where there was a little blip at some point, a month ago when they were starting to put some wins together, at least play some competitive hockey. But now they've gone back in the tank again, no pun intended, with just this brutal 12-game losing streak that they're on. Absolutely awful. 0-10-1 at the beginning of the season. Then they went 9-9 after that. 500 hockey for 18 games after that 11-game winless streak to begin the year. And then after that 9-9 in 18 games, they've now lost 12 straight, all in regulation too, all of them. So don't be betting any San Jose draws right now. That's definitely not what you want to be doing right now at this point in time. When you look at this game, yeah, I know it's a Montreal team on a back-to-back spot, but you're going to put out there Montreal team total over 3.5 at plus 115. I'm grabbing that. Very simple. I'm grabbing that. They are not keeping the puck out of the net right now. That's become an issue. We saw they gave up the 7 spot, of course, to Toronto on Tuesday night, 7-1. Lose 4-1 in San Jose to that same Leafs team. They did hold Winnipeg to 2 goals. That's a little better defensive night there, but consistently during this losing streak, put it this way, 7 of the 10 games during their last 10 losses, they've given up at least 4 goals. So that's not exactly what you want to see. Sorry, I think it's 8 of 10, actually, that they have given up at least 4 goals, 8 of the last 10 losses during this 12-game losing streak. So I like the team total here for Montreal over 3.5. I like the full game over too, but I'm deferring more of my percentage of the bet on the Montreal team total in this game. Goaltending, by the way, it looks like we're going to see for San Jose, Mackenzie Blackwood. We should see Sam Montembeault for Montreal. Hasn't been confirmed, but I would think obviously with Caden Primo starting last night, you'll see Montembeault tonight. So little on the over full game, mostly Montreal team total. Again, you can get plus 110, plus 115 right now with this Canadiens team total over 3.5, which I think is value for this horrendous San Jose team right now, which in the majority of these losses have been giving up goals in bunches and at least 4. What do you think here, Alex? Sharks, Canadiens?
Yeah, this game's going to be a pass for me. And I get the look of trying to back Montreal team total because San Jose's defense has been horrendous. But you look at the history with these 2 teams, and these 2 teams have been bad for a while. Considerably. Yep. If you look at the series history, last 6 meetings have gone under the total significantly. So this is one of those spots where it could be, Habs, especially with Montembeault and net, have a good game and they win 2-0, 3-0. Or it could be one of those crazy games where it's 1-1 and goes past overtime. I want nothing to do with this contest at all, so it's a pass.
Nothing wrong with that on a big card like this. Matt, how about you? Are you getting in there with Sharks, Canadiens?
Yeah, I do like that team total with Montreal, but the big play for me, I found the puck line. I think it's anywhere from plus 135 to plus 155. San Jose, in this 12-game losing streak, 10 of the 12 have gone puck line the other way. So you can get Montreal minus 1.5, somewhere in that plus 140 range. I think that'll be my play. I think San Jose is horrendous. Montreal's at home. Maybe you need that empty net late in the game to get it over the puck line, but I think this is a 3-0 game, 5-1 game. I think the puck line's a safe play, so that'll be my bet on this. But I do like that Montreal total. But at the same time, I agree with Alex. I could see it being a 1-1 game and then a goal here late. But I don't know. I think Montreal takes care of business at home. They're on the back-to-back, but these guys are professional athletes. They'll be all right. So
yeah, no doubt. And as far as props go, I mean, I've talked about Slavkovsky for a while, and Anderson. They're still undervalued. Slavkovsky nearly had one last night against Philly. Cuban in the chat. Look, Mike Hoffman has been an absolute disaster here for the San Jose Sharks. They got him to get to score because he doesn't do anything else well. He doesn't back check. He doesn't play great defensively away from the puck. He's not always physical, but he's got to score goals for this team, and he hasn't been doing that consistently for the Sharks. But you're right, he's up against his former team. He was with Montreal, traded away to San Jose, so the former team angles in play. I could see it taking a shot with Mike Hoffman. I just wish he was more of an offensive impact player for the Sharks than he's been, especially for a team that's crying out for more offense on a nightly basis. All right, Vancouver Canucks, Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh minus 130, home favorites. The total here sitting at 6.5, shaded to the over in this one. All right, what am I missing here? Like, really, what the fuck am I missing here with this price and this number where it is between the Canucks and the Penguins? The Pittsburgh Penguins are an inconsistent, up and down, erratic squad. They've been that way all year. They can't seem to get everything to work and function properly game in and game out. You're going to see Pittsburgh have nights where they score 5 goals, but then they give up 6 and they lose, like an Ottawa game where they lost 5-4, late December. Then they're going to have a game where, they only give up 3 goals to the Buffalo Sabres, but they only score 1. They have these games where it's just, absolutely inconsistent, the level of play at both ends of the ice, offensively, defensively. Now, their power play has definitely been a lot better. They've gotten a power play goal in 4 straight games, and that has really improved significantly since that horrendous drought that they had with the man advantage. But there's no way I'm stepping in front of the Vancouver Canucks as a plus money underdog here against a Pittsburgh team that you can't trust night in and night out. I know they had a nice 4-1 win in Philly the other night. It was a pretty impressive performance overall, and they are actually 5-2 in their last 7 games, 7-3 in their last 10. So they've actually played all right, but they are not the better of these two teams right now. And all the Vancouver Canucks do is they keep finding ways to win. And I keep, hearing this narrative flying around out there that what Vancouver's doing is not sustainable. They have to come back to earth at some point. They have to regress, and their shooting percentage is off the charts. Yeah, but there's been times that people have been basically gone to the poorhouse betting against a team off these analytics numbers that are pointing regression, and shooting percentages that are not sustainable. And they just bet this shit game in and game out, and they have their ass handed to them game in and game out. And I don't operate that way. Yeah, there could be some regression here a little bit at some point, but we're talking if the roles were flipped here and Vancouver's minus 130 instead, then maybe I'm not on it. But because of the price is where it is, I'm on the Vancouver Canucks here, plus 110. This is just a team that is better than Pittsburgh right now. I trust their goaltending more night in and night out than Pittsburgh right now. And I know Alex Nedeljkovic, who's going to start for them tonight, has a 2.5 goals against, 922 save percentage. He's played pretty solid for this team, and he's won each of his last 2 starts against Boston and Philly. But keep in mind, the Boston game, he gave up 5. But they won that game because they outscored their goaltending issues. To me, it's just a disrespectful price to a team that's been one of the best NHL teams all season and doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Do they look like they're falling apart? Do they look like they're really having their issues right now as far as, a regression and a skid and a slump and, whoa, this team ain't anything what they've been all season? No, they just went to New York, to the Rangers and the Islanders, and then to New Jersey before that and swept the tri-state trio, which is very difficult to do. They're just a better squad right now. Win or lose, I'm fine. I'm very content taking plus 110 here with Vancouver in this game. What do you think here, Alex? Canucks, Penguins?
Yeah, there's a couple things I like in this game. Like I said, this price is pretty crazy. I like Vancouver. I got plus 110 on the money line. I also have team total over 3.5 at plus 125, which is available at Bet Online. See as high as plus 129 at Pinnacle. I think that's a great number to look at, especially when you talk about Nedeljkovic, who's just been the epitome of erratic in net for the Pens this year. So this is definitely one of those spots. I also like the first period over, but I want to grab that in game. We're seeing that number rightfully in its right place between $1.45 to as high as 170. I'm even seeing some 2s floating around as well. So I want to wait and try and grab that in game. But I think Vancouver takes care of business here, and I think they'll be able to put up quite a bit of goals here. So I like Vancouver team total over 3.5 at plus money, and I also like the Canucks to win at plus money.
Yeah, I feel I'm going to split it up as well. Not just money line plus 110, but that team total is a pretty good price in my opinion. Also in that plus, actually a really, really good price, even better I think than the money line with the Canuck team total. Asking them to get 4 goals here tonight, which is something they're very capable of. And obviously we saw them accomplish that feat in the tri-state sweep that they had just recently. Yeah, I'm seeing plus 128 for Vancouver Canucks over 3.5. Team total at Pinnacle right now. So that is just an outstanding price. And like I said, we've seen this team score 5, 6, and 6 in the 3 games so far on this road trip. Matt, what do you think here? Canucks, Penguins?
Yeah, I love both of those. I saw Demko's in net for Vancouver. He's been playing lights out. I don't understand. This is one of those we were talking about before the show. I don't really know why it's plus 110. maybe there's something that I don't know, but looking at injury reports, everything seems to check out. So I'm definitely going to be on the money line. I do like that team total being plus as well. As you mentioned, you never know the Penguins you're going to get, but it's pretty consistent that the Vancouver Canucks are going to put 4 or 5 on you. And Pittsburgh is not, they're not keeping it out of the net as well as they could be. I mean, there are a couple glimpses of it, but they're also, giving up 7 or 8 on random nights. So I think there's going to be goals. The reason I don't like the total is because we don't know what Pittsburgh we're going to get. Are they going to lose 5-4, or is it going to be a 5-0 rout by Vancouver? But I feel like anything on the Vancouver side is safe, and so those bets at plus money are easy picks for me.
Yeah, I do have a small lean here to this Penguins Canucks as well. First period, both teams to score, because I could see Pittsburgh here maybe finding the back of the net early. Demko hasn't been nearly as good the last few starts. He hasn't been terrible, but he's just not been that just dominant self we saw earlier in the season. But I still trust him 100% more than I trust.
It's a long road trip. I think that's got a lot to do with this line between Pittsburgh being a public team, as I mentioned in the chat, and this is the longest road trip of the season for the Canucks, the 5th of an 8-game trip. So I think people are kind of looking more into that than anything else.
No doubt. And as far as the props go tonight for this one, we've got Pedersen, Miller, and Besser on the top line. They've been on fire. Kuzmenko, Suter, Mikheyev, the second line. But don't sleep on Dakota Joshua. Don't sleep on Niels Höglander. Look at this guy. He's starting to get it rolling. And these are some depth forwards for the Vancouver Canucks right now. And then on the Pittsburgh side of the equation, Rickard Rakell is probably one of my favorite props for them tonight, because he's been really good. They've put him with Crosby and Gensel in a good type of situation for him. Drew O'Connor, probably a little value as well with Malkin and Rust, as he's on the second line. So those are some of the props I'd be looking at here with Canucks and Penguins. All right, Seattle and Washington. We've got the Seattle Kraken minus 125 road favorites, 5.5 being the total in this game. Again, much like Seattle Buffalo, where the price looked dirt cheap for a surging Seattle Kraken team, and I didn't take it against Buffalo, and I'm frustrated by that. Or actually, I did finally get in on it, but very small, not enough for my liking. And sure enough, they take care of business against Buffalo. I'm going to get involved with Seattle for a significantly more stake tonight, because to me, they're the better of these two teams. They're playing their best hockey. What can you say about them? 7 straight wins, and they've done it with defense, and they've done it with specifically Joey Decord, who's been absolutely outstanding in net right now for this Seattle Kraken team. Decord's been awesome. He has clearly taken the mantle with Philip Grubauer injured and on IR, and he has run with it. He, of course, once again in net tonight for the Kraken, Joey Decord. Darcy Kemper in net for Washington here. A banged-up Capitals team. Keep that in mind, obviously, tonight. We've got some question marks now starting to appear for Washington in this game tonight. Tom Wilson, game time decision for this game for the Capitals. Ovechkin, lower body injury. He was at morning practice, but he went off the ice and apparently had some conversations with the Capitals training staff, and that tells you there's probably something bothering him from an injury standpoint. So he is definitely a game time decision here for the Washington Capitals. And I know it's not the same Ovi this year, 8 goals, 8 assists, as we've seen in the past, but still a missed player, and still someone that you've got to pay attention to when you're defending the Capitals, and that's still someone that's you're going to miss if you're a Washington. He's not able to play tonight, so very straightforward for me. Seattle minus 125. Think they get the job done. They're on a roll, playing great hockey, really at both ends of the ice, but especially with what they're getting from their goaltender right now, Joey Decord, who's been absolutely magnificent. Magnificent is the word to describe it. Alex, what do you think here? Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, I'm on Kraken money line, but I'm also going to sprinkle on something. I don't bet these too often like I used to. I'm going with the puck line as well, laying the 1.5 plus 205 over at Caesars.
Good price.
I think it's worth it, especially except Washington banged up, and no matter how bad Ovechkin's been playing all year, when he's off the ice, that team's completely different. The whole dynamic is different when number 8's not around. We saw that in years past. Like I said, even though his numbers have been declining, this isn't the best of teams. But everything's different when Ovechkin's not there. So if he doesn't play tonight, that changes things drastically. And Seattle probably should be favored at like 130 or 140 just off of his absence, because he means so much to that team, the locker room, that atmosphere being at home. So Seattle wins big here. I'm going to lay the $1.25, and I'm also going to lay 1.5 at plus 205 on puck line.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, he made 36 saves, so Decord had to be good against, but it's not like Buffalo didn't generate against Seattle in that loss. I mean, they did. They had chances. They had some good chances, and Joey Decord's just locked in. He's dialed in right now. He's absolutely dialed, and it's wonderful to see. And I'm not shocked by it. Maybe I'm a little tad surprised that he's been this good, but I'm not surprised he's been really good because I saw it at Coachella Valley. I watched the AHL playoffs. That's how much I love this sport. I'm watching the Calder Cup final, Coachella Valley last year and Hershey Bears. And I know Coachella Valley didn't win the series, but Joey Decord still played well in that series despite the loss. And he was incredible the whole postseason run for the Firebirds. So I know how good he was down there. And I knew there was the potential it could translate to this level, and right now it is. What do you think here, Matt? Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, I'm on Decord as well. He's the man. Yeah, I'm on Seattle, and I do like that point, Alex. Especially if Ovi's out, and I saw this in the chat, you can lay the puck line now and get the better odds because it will shift if Ovi's out. But at the very least, if he's announced that he's not playing, I'm hammering that puck line because – again, Washington hasn't looked great. Seattle's been finding ways to win, but I think, a Washington without Ovi and the other injuries they've got, I think Seattle takes this game fairly easy. So, yeah, same boat.
Prop I like the most is, usually some players take a game or two when they return from an injury to get going. Not Jaden Schwartz. He had an absolutely outstanding game against Buffalo in his return from injury, and I'm going to jump on Jaden Schwartz props here tonight. Goal prop, assist prop. Definitely like what I saw from him in his return to the lineup was absolutely strong and showing that finishing ability for the Seattle Kraken. So definitely interested in that. Ellie Tolvanen has 5 points in the last 3 games. Vince Dunn is really starting to heat up. And how about Yanni Gourde too? Yanni Gourde's a funny player because he can all of a sudden out of nowhere start to streak as far as goals go. 3 goals in the last 4 games for Yanni Gourde. So there's some interesting value. Dunn, Gourde, and Schwartz, I think, for Seattle. I'm interested here as far as the props go in this game tonight.
Just to kind of circle back to what I'm saying with Ovechkin being out, there are certain stars that when they're out of the lineup, they're missed because of what they're doing on the ice. Connor McDavid, for example. But they're not necessarily missed as much with just their presence. Sidney Crosby and Steven Stamkos are 2 examples. World-class players, top leaders, but they've been out for a lot of times. We've seen them deal with injuries over the years, and those teams are able to tilt down and kind of step up and rise. You look back at Washington without Ovechkin throughout the years, no matter how good or bad he's been, whole different feel. It's the same thing like when Jonathan Taves was missing with the Hawks. It's a Brad Marchand, the times that even back in the days when he was still being an asshole, licking people, doing crazy shit, getting suspended, there was still a difference with him off of the ice. And that's the difference here with Ovechkin. Ovechkin's not going to put up the same big numbers, but his presence on the ice is sorely missed. So people are saying in the chat that, he's not the same Ovechkin. No, but his presence is what matters more than even his play on the ice at this point. And you do see a difference even now, 18 years later, when he's not on the ice.
I do. Agree. Yeah, definitely. And it's still missed. And speaking, it's not all bad for Washington on the injury front. They do get TJ Oshie back. TJ Oshie is back tonight for Washington, but and it's funny, everyone's talked about how Ovechkin's dropped off. Ovechkin's declined. TJ Oshie has really declined. Prior to now I know he's been out for a while, but even prior to his injury, he's got 2 goals in like 21 games this year for the Washington Capitals. So no one's talking about that. We can't wait to just talk about how number 8 has fallen off a little bit this year. No one said shit about TJ Oshie. 2 goals in 21 games. No one says that damn thing about it.
To be fair, though, Oshie's had a lot of injury issues lately that have kind of stacked up. And it seems like Oshie might be in that same boat where Sir Patrick Kane was, where he just never got a chance to heal. So we don't know how long he's been dealing with injuries or if everything's still just completely good. Does he need to have surgery and he's delaying it? I think that's the difference. Ovechkin, we've never seen him deal with a real significant injury in his career. So the drop-off is more significant and noticeable because, we can't blame it on anything. You know what I'm saying? At least TJ Oshie, he's had all these injuries and different things and moving around and up and down the lineup. That's the difference.
That's right. So Oshie's back. Of course, Pacioretty came back a few games ago. Just from what I've seen out of Pacioretty these few games since he's been back for Washington, it's going to take him some time. get the timing back, get the rhythm back. And I think that's pretty clear here. These first few games, he's been on the ice. All right, New Jersey, Tampa Bay. We've got the Lightning minus 145, home favorites, 6.5 being the total here in this game. You've got the Lightning coming off a thrilling comeback win against the struggling Los Angeles Kings, 3-2 in overtime. They were down 2-0 in the third period, yet found a way to rally back in that game and get the victory. Now they go to Tampa Bay. Now they host the New Jersey Devils, following that victory. Here's a little bit of a growing concern right now, though, for this Tampa Bay Lightning team. It's the inability to win 2 in a row all of a sudden. The last couple times they've won a game, they've immediately lost the very next game. It's not exactly what you want to see here going into this game. It's going to be a Vasilevsky and Vanacek matchup here in between the pipes. They are fairly healthy. Sergachev's obviously been out for a while, but they're pretty healthy outside of that. Tanner Jeannot's the other injury concern, but not really going to get much offense from him. And then on the New Jersey side, look, there are concerns. Jack Hughes. We talked about, how important he's been and what the record has been without Jack Hughes. And right on cue, one game without Jack Hughes against Vancouver, they lose that game 6-4. And if you actually look at the record without both Hughes and Hischier playing for the New Jersey Devils this year, it's not good. So I'm always a little bit concerned with backing New Jersey when both of these guys aren't in there, Hughes and Hischier. The record's clear as day. Without Hughes and Hischier, they've been a below 500 hockey team this year, the New Jersey Devils. So that's what concerns me about Jack Hughes being out. Andre Palat's out as well. Timo Meyer's still on IR. And Siegenthaler, someone that plays a lot of minutes, and they've really asked a lot, Lindy Ruff, of him because of some of the other defensive concerns they've had. And now you don't have him in there either. So I think there's some value in New Jersey. I don't want to lay this price with Tampa. I'm not going to lay this price with Tampa. I lean New Jersey. I just don't know if I want to pull the trigger with this, considering the record with depth for the Devils this year without Jack Hughes. Without Hughes and Hischier, I'm going to have to look it up while Alex and Matt discuss this game in a moment, because I want to find out that record. I remember looking at it a week or two ago, and I knew it was bad, and it was way below 500. Without Hughes and Hischier this year, both on the ice. So that's keeping me off the Devils, even though I lean that way. I do lean over 6.5 in this game just a little bit. We've seen the Devils become, a pretty distinct over team here of late. 4 of the last 5 games have gone over. I don't trust Vanacek in net necessarily, but I think the Devils, and look, Tampa Bay, you look at them, they gave up 7 to Boston, 4 to Winnipeg, 5 to the Rangers at home, in a home loss. And Vasi was in net that night too. So I think the game could end up finding its way over the 6.5 here. Alex, Devils, Lightning.
Yeah, this is an important game for both teams. You look at where they are in the standings right now. New Jersey trying to climb and fight back, and both these teams are going to be in that wild card race as you look right now. Just a point separating between these two. So this is a classic spot where I'm looking at the draw. Plus 350. I saw Caesars. I got to see what the FanDuel price is, but I think this could be a tightly contested game. And as you mentioned, without Hughes, without Hischier for the Devils, I think that kind of evens things out a little bit. This is a Tampa team that I'm still not relying on. I think Tampa finds their way out of the playoffs still. I'm still, steadfast on that bet that I made earlier in the year that they missed the postseason. And I think this will be one of those games at home. They find a way to kind of grind it, keep things close. And if this is a tied game late, we're not going to see a lot of crazy chances. This is one that'll probably sail right into overtime. So both teams can secure that 1 point in the standing. So I'm going with the draw.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm probably going to sprinkle on the draw. I'm starting to look at, Tampa went to OT against LA the other night. We've seen, a few overtime games in the head-to-head series between these two teams. So the draw could get there. Like I say, there's some other draws I've got my eye on tonight, but this one's probably worth a small shot here. What do you think here, Matt? New Jersey, Tampa Bay.
So for me, usually Tampa at home is a system play to take the game over. With the injuries to New Jersey, it does give me more of a toss-up. I may try and live this one, see if there's no goals in the first 10 minutes. Maybe you get it down to 5.5, even 5 late in the first. I feel like every time I plan on doing that way ahead of the slate and, it ends up being 1-0 a minute and a half into the game. And then it's, 7.5 or higher the rest of the game. But yeah, that's really all I like here. The draw's not a bad play. I may sprinkle it, just given the injuries, given how Tampa's played, it could be a low-scoring, tight game. But yeah, for me, I just usually take the over on Tampa at home. When they do score and that place gets rocking, it seems to be a goals in bunches. So that'll probably be my only play, if anything, or this game may be a pass for me.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that as far as the passing on a big card like this. As far as props go, for obviously with no Jack Hughes, who's going to step up? Luke Hughes, still think is live. 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in the last 6 games. Hischier is on fire right now. 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points in the last 5 games. And how about Michael McLeod? We've sung his praises too. 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points in the last 3 games for the New Jersey Devils. Brandon Hagel, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in the last 3 games. So he's the one that's really starting to heat up a little bit for Tampa Bay. So that would be the prop that stands out to me here with Tampa tonight with Hagel for them. All right, next up here, we've got Edmonton and Detroit. The Oilers minus 160, road favorites, 7 the total. I don't want to step in front of Edmonton, so that's number 1. And number 2, Detroit's in a tough spot, coming home off the very long, lengthy West Coast road trip as well for this Red Wings team. So it's not even the greatest of situational looks for them. Although they did get a sweep in California, beating San Jose, LA, and Anaheim. We'll see if they can roll that success into this matchup here against an Edmonton team that, things are going well when you play pretty lethargic, pretty sterile type of game against Chicago the other night. Pretty ugly. Not at all the best game Edmonton's played during this win streak, and you still win. You find a way. Not pretty, not a Picasso, not a Rembrandt, but you still win that game 2-1 against Chicago the other night. Just don't want to step in front of a team that's on this kind of win streak. But at the same time, do I want to lay minus 160? No. I like totals bets more than anything here. I'm going to wait for 6.5. I'm not going to take it at 7, but we're definitely going to wait for 6.5. Detroit still, even though finally they saw a game stay under against Anaheim, they had still been an over machine. They had been 7-1 to the over in 8 games prior to that under against Anaheim, and it barely stayed under. You look at series history, we've seen in this matchup, 3 straight games have gone over the total, 7-5, 5-2, and then 5-4 in a shootout in Edmonton last year. So pretty high-scoring affairs. Feel very confident this game gets at least a 7, but I'm going to wait to see a 6.5 with an in-game live look rather than bet the 7 pregame with this total. And this is definitely one I've got earmarked too for a first period, both teams to score as well with the Oilers and the Red Wings. I think that's definitely a solid option here. First period over is too pricey, too expensive. At least with the first period, both teams to score, you chop down the price, and I think it's very reasonable for both teams to be able to find the back of the net in the opening 20 minutes. Because that over 1.5 minus 170, no, that's just too pricey for me. What do you think here, Alex? Oilers, Red Wings?
Yeah, I would be inclined to bet both teams to score first period, especially with how Edmonton's doing. But it is interesting to note, looking at the history of these two teams, last 4 meetings, Detroit has come out with a first period win. In each of those, they've literally 2-0, 1-0, 1-0, and 2-0. And then you look at 2 meetings before that, it was a scoreless first period. So Detroit in 3 of those last 4 meetings, by the way, being at the Pizza Box, Little Caesars Arena. So for whatever reason, Detroit has gotten off to a good start at home against Edmonton historically. And that we're talking about better Edmonton teams and arguably some, shakier Detroit teams in that spot. So maybe there's something where Edmonton doesn't get off to a good foot in Detroit for whatever reason. I might take a small shot with Detroit first period on the money line, plus 125 is the highest price I'm seeing. So a little sprinkle in there, and then it gives us some room to kind of adjust and look for things live. We're looking for obviously lower totals in the first period and full game. I mean, I'm seeing some 7.5 floating around at points bet. That's kind of absurd. So we should see those numbers drop quite fast in live wagering, and we might be able to get in with a full game and first period over as well as grabbing that Detroit first period money line.
Yep, and it is Calvin Pickard in net to confirm what JF's asking in the chat. Yep, definitely Calvin Pickard. And look, Calvin Pickard's been better than I thought he would be here with Edmonton. He's actually had some decent starts, but do I trust him fully? He's had, like I say, though, he has had a couple good starts. He beat New Jersey 6-3, and he played well in that game. Anaheim 7-2. He was in net for that game. No question, he played well. He also had a home win against New Jersey 4-1 in December. He did have one really rough game, and that was the Florida game at home. They lost 5-1 in December. I still think, I trust Skinner more, especially the current version of Skinner. The current iteration of Skinner has been terrific. He's been excellent, but I don't trust Pickard as much. But it makes that first period, both teams, like I say, first period, both teams to score. I really like that because I think Detroit can score early, but I don't know if they're going to keep Edmonton off the scoreboard early. Lyon's been kind of not as good as he was pre-injury. Alex Lyon, he's been all right. He hasn't been as good. So I think the Oilers might be able to find the net as well in the opening period. That first period, both teams to score. I think it's even the best bet to go with in this game, even better than waiting for that live 6.5 with the over. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Edmonton, Detroit.
Yeah, I think that best bet is a good pick. I think there's going to be a lot of goals. I'm not super afraid of the 7, but I would prefer to live it at 6.5 if it happens. But with these two teams, I mean, there could be 2 goals in the first 5 minutes. So I think best both teams to score is a great bet. Don't really like either of the sides. Edmonton's been playing better. Detroit's at home. I could go back and forth. I can definitely respect that first period, Detroit. Maybe they come out hot, score 2, Edmonton scores 1, something like that. But yeah, as far as, this game, I think both teams to score in the first, or if you find the over at 6.5, maybe you sprinkle it. I've seen it some places, but it's like minus 170. So definitely would want to live that one. So, yeah.
You know what? You saying back and forth reminds me of the great, the late, great Aaliyah. Great singer she was. You Aaliyah'd this game. Back, forth and forth. Yeah, exactly. That's what you're doing. Back and forth on this game, right, Matt? 100% with Edmonton and Detroit. For me, first period, both teams to score. Like I say, I really like that. And like I said, I'm going to wait for a live 6.5 there with this one. As far as the props go in this game, Perron, I still think Perron's, is undervalued. He's been 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in 4 games. Lucas Raymond, goal, 5 assists, 6 points in the last 5 games. Certainly from an assist standpoint, he's been really good. For Edmonton, it's funny, the Foegele-McLeod combo, which was really starting to score a lot of goals. They've calmed down a little bit, but I still think there's great value as far as both of them. Right now, Foegele and McLeod on the Edmonton side. Their lineup, because they've been winning, really hasn't changed all that much, so it doesn't really open up a ton of opportunities for that bargain bin value. Chris Knobloch's not going to change a winning formula, so not as much, with the lineup changes for them. For Detroit, like I said, Perron, Raymond, Robbie Fabry scored, on that road trip, and I know him and Veleno, they're down on the 4th line, it looks like tonight, but you can't argue that they've chipped in offensively, so you're definitely going to get some value with their props tonight in this game. All right, Ottawa and Buffalo next up. We've got the Sabres minus 125 home favorites, 7 the total here, shaded to the under. Now, this I jumped on last night as far as the total. I got over 6.5 minus 135 last night. I figured, I don't know if this is going to stay put, and sure enough, it hasn't. It's basically moved to 7 everywhere, so thank goodness we locked this one in last night. I say now, though, you do what I plan to do with the Edmonton game, and that's wait for a 6.5 if all you can find is 7. I'm also gonna, and gosh help me, because it seems like every time I've bet Buffalo lately, it's the kiss of death. But I'm going to take the Sabres here tonight, minus 125. I just don't, I don't trust Ottawa at all. And even with a lead, let's say Ottawa's up 2-1, 3-1 in the third period. Do you trust them to close that game out with the absolute shit show that we see night in and night out from this group trying to protect a lead, which hasn't gotten better under Jacques Martin since he's been there? So, and look, it's not going to get better till they get home. This has been ridiculous, all these road games they've played. How long have they been on the road? I mean, they played at that West Coast trip. They had 1 home game. Then in Toronto, they had 2 home games after that. And then they're back on the road for 5 straight after tonight. And then they're finally going to get an extended homestand. And only then, I think is Ottawa going to have some chance for tangible improvement and figuring this thing out defensively. And I'm not even sure they will. But it's not going to happen until Jacques Martin's extended time where they're not traveling, going to one city after another. They have extended practice time. Only then are we going to see if they can get this thing going and get on some kind of run. Until then, I think they're fade material, including tonight. So Buffalo for me. I got on over 6.5 as well last night, but now at 7, I'll recommend just wait for a live number at 6.5 or better. What do you think here in this one, Alex? Ottawa, Buffalo.
Yeah, it would have to be either looking live or just a complete pass here. And at 7, we should be able to grab. It's going to be tough to try to wait for a 5.5. So you got to be talking about 6.5s. Hopefully, laying somewhere in the $10, $20 range. Even for the first period over, you're seeing the minus 180, 190. We'll try to get that down to at least 140. And I would be more inclined to play that than both teams to score. It's hard to trust Buffalo, but Ottawa has been a solid team in that first period over. So that's the thing I'm kind of looking for. I want to get that down to around 140 and try and hit both hit that first period over. But other than that, it's a pass on the sides.
All right. What do you think here, Matt? Ottawa, Buffalo. Oh, you know what? I think we did just Matt's internet. Yeah. Oh, we got it. We got you. Yep.
Yeah, it sort of froze up there towards the end of Alex's play, but yeah, I don't. Again, there was a time that anytime I'd see a 7, I'd usually take it just because I think those goals come in bunches in those games. This one, Buffalo's too back and forth. Ottawa, same thing. Like some games, this could be a 6-5 game, could be a 2-1 game. I do like it at 6.5, so I might try and live it, but no real initial play here and no play on the sides for me at this point.
And we've got Forsberg and Luukkonen in net. So it's going to be Anton Forsberg for Ottawa, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen for Buffalo here in this game. You know what I'm doing with Buffalo? I said I am on Buffalo money line. I'm splitting that up. I'm splitting that up with the team total over 3.5. I have to, because I don't want to be stuck, what if it ends up being 5-4 Ottawa, the team total casters, and I put the whole amount on the money line with Buffalo and I look like an asshat. I'm not going to look like that here with this team. I'm done being made look like a fool from this Buffalo Sabres team, because they're very capable of getting the 4 goals and still losing this game. Believe me, that can absolutely happen. No question. So I'm going to definitely split it up here. Buffalo money line with that team total for the Sabres over in this game. Yeah, as far as, Skinner and Victor Olofsson are both out for Buffalo. Jeff Skinner and Victor Olofsson. So there's going to be some shakeups here with the line combos for Donnie Granato as a result. Looks like here tonight we got Greenway back on the top line. Problem is, remember Greenway was on the top line and I'm betting him to score, and we just didn't see enough offense from him last time he was up there with Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch. But I would lean that way. There is value. I would sprinkle maybe on Jordan Greenway here. JJ Peterka, anyone from that line with JJ Peterka, Dylan Cousins, and especially my guy, the mighty Quinn, Jack Quinn. I definitely think their props are really good. Quinn has been my go-to player prop lately for the Buffalo Sabres. I think that's probably worth a look again. And then for Ottawa, going into this game, unfortunately, a lot of their players that were red hot, they're kind of cooling off, Batherson included. We'll see if he can get things turned around. It looks like tonight they are going to change things up with the power play. They're going to give Ridley Gregg some more power play time. So maybe he's someone that can step things up. Maybe it's some value with his props tonight as a result of that. All right, next up, we've got Anaheim and Carolina. The Hurricanes, a huge home favorite in this game against the Anaheim Ducks. And the total here currently at 6.5, shaded to the under. We've got Carolina minus 360 here in this matchup, taking on the Anaheim Ducks. Obviously, the Carolina Hurricanes are a team that is playing, I think some very strong hockey right now. No question about that. We've seen that from them of late. Well, I'm just waiting on goalie confirmations here because we don't have them for either side yet. We have Gibson as an expected but not confirmed, and we have Kochetkov as an expected but not confirmed for Carolina. That makes all the difference in the world. I'm very much more hesitant to bet against Carolina with Pyotr Kochetkov. As you guys all know, we think, both of Alex and I especially think very highly of Pyotr Kochetkov. There's no question about that. Now, I had the over with Anaheim Nashville the other night. So did Alex. We're happy to cash that. But in the pit of my gut, I remember my analysis on Tuesday of that game. I said, don't be surprised if Anaheim's hanging around and maybe wins that game, because there's signs of them playing better hockey lately. They've been more competitive. They could have beat Detroit at the end of that homestand. They lost 3-2. I'm definitely seeing this Anaheim team, like I said, they finally got themselves, out of that dark tunnel that they were in. They got a very impressive, borderline dominant win against Nashville the other night. They raced out to that 5-0 lead. I think they were kind of guilty of taking their foot off the gas pedal in the third period. Nashville got 3 goals and it ended 5-3. But there's no question that the Anaheim Ducks, they're playing some really good hockey, better hockey right now the last couple games. I am concerned, though, they lose Zegras again. He's on IR. They're already without Carlson and Jones. Tristan Lunow, who's going to become more important on that blue line with Jamie Drysdale traded away, and Pavel Minchikov, who's played well on that blue line. He also may not play in this game. I'm a little concerned about that. Natchez is out for Carolina, so they've got a key player out as well. This is a pass for now. I'm waiting to see who's in net, and then I'll make my decisions. Put it this way, if it's Kochetkov, I would probably take Carolina team total over. If it's not Kochetkov, I'd probably take full game over. It's kind of the way I'm thinking here. What do you think, Alex? Anaheim, Carolina.
If it's Kochetkov, I'm on the draw. And if it's Ronta, I'm on Anaheim money line. And I have to play it based on the series history. Just the last 3 games alone, Ducks have cashed as a plus 245 dog early in the season. Last year as a plus 400 dog won in Raleigh 3-2. And then a 4-3 win at home past regulation. So that was a plus 250 dog. So they have dominated this series history for going back several years. And in 90% of the games I'm looking at, they've been underdogs. So at this big of a price, and clearly the books have not factored that in too much. They're just going off of current form. And current form makes sense in the sense of Carolina. Obviously, they should be a bigger favorite here, but this is a spot I think worth laying a little bit on the dog. Not a full unit, but it's definitely worth taking a shot, especially if we get Ronta in net, who's been very shaky. Like I said, these are both teams that are banged up, dealing with issues. But clearly the Ducks have no problem playing in Raleigh and playing against this Canes team overall. So plus 290, plus 300, that's worth the sprinkle. We just got to wait for confirmations.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on that too, because I remember, I remember cashing with Anaheim at Carolina last year. And I remember that. That's one of my proudest moments of all of last season on this Ice Guys show, was they were plus fucking 400 in that game. I remember it. The price was insane. And I'm like, this is a spot for Carolina to be a little bit sleepy, and it's a spot for Anaheim here in Raleigh to sneak up and maybe beat them. And yeah, I know they got badly outshot. And I mean badly. It was 53-16. For Carolina, shots on goal. And Gibson had one of those incredible performances in net, and Frederick Anderson was untrustworthy, which he can be. And they got badly outshot, badly outplayed. But who was coming through and exiting that game with a winning ticket at the end of the night? Me, on Anaheim. And so...
Oh, no, Fish you say.
No, and so and sometimes styles make fights. You look at it, 3 straight victories head-to-head for Anaheim over Carolina. And this is kind of a dead spot for Carolina. They're rolling along. They're, I don't want to say they're reading their press clippings, but they know they're playing great hockey. They've won 5 of the last 6. They did drop one in a shootout to St. Louis, but they didn't play that bad. It's got all, and plus they got Pittsburgh, LA. They got some bigger games coming up. I know it's just not that spot where it's going to be an easy one. I don't think it'll be an easy one for Carolina.
No, I was just going to make one point about how if there's one team in the entire league where we can look and say, oh, well, they outshot a team, but they found their way to lose, it's the Carolina Hurricanes. This team frequently, we talked about that history with them and New York Rangers, but you can throw a bunch of teams out. No team has consistently played games where they've outshot teams by nearly or over a 2-1 margin and found their way to lose like Carolina. So that's one thing you could kind of almost say take it with a grain of salt. If you see Carolina, they're going to outshoot everybody every night. So you can't always factor that into whether you're going to bet them to win or lose.
No, yeah, I'm going to, and what I will do too is if it's Ronta, I'm definitely doing a little money line and a little team total over 2.5 with Anaheim, because I don't want to be in that spot too where I'm doing this a lot more. There's been instances again where I've been on team total or I've been on money line and team loses the game and the team total over still hits. I've been victimized by that enough where this team total money line type of split deal is really starting to appeal to me when I like a particular team. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Anaheim, Carolina.
Yeah, with the exception of the current San Jose Sharks, I always get excited for a plus 300 dog. And I do think, given the history, I think the Ducks could sneak this one out. So I might sprinkle that money line, depending on goaltending, could factor in some team totals. As you mentioned, if Ronta's playing, I might hit that team total for the Ducks. And then this may be a game. It'll depend on goaltending, but this may be a game I take the first period over too. I could see both teams scoring early and, maybe early and often, but maybe slowing down. So But yeah, I like that Ducks money line. If you can get it at plus 300, that's awesome. Why not? Why not the Ducks tonight? So.
Yeah, why not? I agree with that. Troy Terry's on fire. Vetrano's on the top line. Killorn's on the top line. So there's a few options as far as Duck props. Carolina, I would say, look, Svechnikov and Aho. Lately, if you take both of them over 1.5 points, you're at least hitting one. And they're both plus money. So you hit one, you're profitable. But that has been the norm lately. Aho and Svechnikov, they have got it going for Carolina. I would consider Nason. We've talked about Nason a lot. Bunting's now on the second line. His props are worth a look. Brent Burns is worth a look right now. This guy is really feeling it. 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points in the last 6 games for this Carolina team. So he's firing the puck a lot. He's getting in on a lot of the offense right now for the Carolina Hurricanes. So definitely not a bad option there as well with Brent Burns. All right, we've got a tale of teams going in opposite directions right now, facing off the sputtering, struggling LA Kings and the absolutely smoking, red hot, whatever you want to call them, Florida Panthers. There they are. They're red hot right now. Florida minus 140, home favorite, 6 the total in this game. That being said, this is a team that just dominated their road trip, dummied everybody. Vegas, Colorado, the 2 defending Stanley Cup champs back-to-back. No letdown, no hiccup at St. Louis to end that road trip. Dominant victory once again for the Florida Panthers. However, off that great, wonderful, successful, dominant road trip, now you're back home for that first game. It's a tricky spot. I get it. That being said, this team's on fire, and I ain't fading them. You know, you can do that with your money. I'm not right now, even with the spot being a little dubious here for the Florida Panthers, minus 140. Now, I'm not taking Florida tonight. It is a tricky spot. Minus 140 is not the great price. And LA, I think at some point is going to win a hockey game. They're too good still, in my opinion, to be this much of a skid and tailspin. But, man, the confidence is chipped away at this team. There's no question. You're up 2-0 against Tampa Bay. Your bread and butter is defending the lead. Usually for all these last recent years, and they're blowing leads. You're right. And it's not LA Kings hockey that they're playing right now. They are supposed to shut things down with a lead. They're not doing it right now. And Talbot's hit a little bit of a rough patch, for the first time this year. He's not nearly been as sharp, which you don't love to see. There's concerns right now for LA. Talbot in net, Bobrovsky for Florida. I don't really have much here. I really don't. I mean, I'm not going against Florida. No way. But I'm also not going to jump on this Panthers team tonight in a spot where they're coming off a very successful road trip. Fat and happy syndrome. It does concern me that it maybe gets into Florida, but it didn't get into Florida with St. Louis the other night. Look at it. They had every right to be flat against St. Louis coming off. Are you kidding me? Vegas and Colorado back-to-back on the road, and you basically dominate those 2 teams, and no hiccup at all playing St. Louis. Played a great game. So they're awesome right now, both ends of the ice. I'm not fading the Panthers. I'm not. What do you think here, Alex? Kings, Panthers.
I just can't believe that all of these games are scheduled at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm just looking at that. We still have not gotten out of the 7 p.m. slate. I just wanted to make that known. Everything kind of bunched up all at once. Yeah. How about spread something out when you got 13, 14
ridiculous
fucking games? Yeah. It's just insane. But I digress. I like the draw here. It's as high as plus 380 at FanDuel. Like you said, this is kind of one of those spots. Florida got to come down to earth at some point, and the Kings have to kind of come back up from earth at some point. And you don't really want to take a shot with either one at these prices necessarily. I would have liked Florida if they had been continuing on the road at minus $1.40. Hell yeah, I'd been all over that, especially if we're talking about at LA. You know how bad the Kings have been at home. But flip-flopped around, I can see this being maybe a closer game. Just kind of see the same kind of thing. Maybe not necessarily what we saw from LA and Tampa, where it's just just collapse late and then they lose. But I think it would be close enough to where it goes past 60. So at plus 380, give me the draw.
All right, the draw, I could see it. LA certainly has played 3 of the last 5 games for LA, have gone past regulation. Florida, not so much. Florida's been so fucking dominant. They haven't even come close to overtime the last several games during this 8-game win streak that they are on. But yeah, I mean, that was a thoroughly impressive road trip. Now, the one thing that LA does have going for them is they've won 6 in a row against Florida. LA has played well. They've dominated this head-to-head series. So that's why this game's it's all over the map for me. And that's why I'm staying off it. The only thing I would look at is what Alex is thinking here with the draw, maybe a small piece of that. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Kings, Panthers.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think draw is not a bad play, as you mentioned. they seem to both be going in different directions, but they're both good teams at the end of the day. And
I'll
I
throw a
feel like
question out to you, Matt, about this game.
Yeah.
Are you as an NHL bettor, do you think about the spot overriding the form, or the form overriding the spot? Because if you think the spot is more valuable and the better handicapping factor for this game than the form, then you're on LA, because it is an LA spot. They're desperate. Florida's off a long, successful road trip. They could be a little off their game. So if the spot overrides the form, you're on LA. If the form overrides the spot, you're on Florida tonight, because there's no way that right now Florida's the much better of these two teams at the moment as far as current form is concerned.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think just from playing in the past, LA is in a desperation format. So, they need to bounce back. And what better way to do that than in Florida? Again, it's tough for me because I don't really want to take either of these sides. I do kind of like the over at 6. Maybe we get a 3-3 game and Alex's draw hits, and then the over hits as well. But yeah, I mean, I would lean towards LA just given the value. But I mean, I just don't think I could bet against Florida after their last 4 or 5 games. So this is a tough one. I might sprinkle the over. That's probably it for me.
Yeah, I don't hate the over here. 6-3 in the last 9 meetings over the total, Kings and Panthers. So we have seen some, and like I say, LA's not shutting it down like they've been able, like they normally do when they're on top of their game, and that's another thing that would concern you a little bit. For Florida, I mean, with their props, I mean, my goodness, you could go in so many different directions. Kachuk is on fire. Verhaeghe's on fire. Barkov's got 14 points in the last 8 games, 12 points in the last 6 for Verhaeghe, 14 points in the last 6 for Kachuk. Reinhart right now is just rolling. So take your pick. Any of those players right now for Florida, as far as props go, are not bad options at the moment with the way they're producing. All right, we're still in the 7 Eastern block of games somehow, and this is the last of the 7 Eastern games, though. Next up, Leafs and Islanders, where the Boo Birds for Johnny Tavares, I'm sure, will be out in full force once again. We've got the Leafs minus 130, road favorites. The total in this one, 6.5 across the board between the Leafs and the Islanders. I do like the over a little bit here in this game. I like the first period, both teams to score a little bit here in this game as well. And I definitely like the draw in this one with Leafs and Islanders. We just saw the last meeting with these teams in Long Island go to OT between these two teams. So I like draw. I like both teams to score early. I do think the Islanders will bring a better effort to the table, because that was, pretty pathetic, albeit against a very good Vancouver team in their last game earlier this week. So I expect them. And again, that crowd's going to be more raucous than usual, because John Tavares stirs up that anger and that vitriol in that Islander fan base there at UBS Arena whenever he comes back to town. I think, again, it's time to let bygones be bygones, but apparently that's never going to happen. But as far as this game goes, like I say, I like both teams to get on the board early. Martin Jones and Net's been great again, but you just come off 2 games against a horrendous team in the San Jose Sharks. So let's see you keep it to 2 goals or 1 goal allowed tonight, when you're playing the Islanders off a really bad, shoddy game against Vancouver. And an Islanders team that, look, offensively, they've been better this year than they've been in years past. And we know defensively they have their issues still. So first period, both teams to score a little bit on that, over 6.5 in the draw for me as well here. Alex, Leafs Islanders.
Well, I mean, Maple draws and Islanders, so we're definitely going with that regulation draw here. But this is one I would probably look to grab that live over as well. I could try and look for a 5.5 lane this price rather than 6.5. So that's something I'll be trying to get in game. But as far as pregame goes, just going strictly with the draw.
I mean, we absolutely have to bet that draw. You're right. We got the Toronto Maple draws and the New York Islanders, who we've been talking about all year as 2 of the biggest overtime shootout go past regulation teams all season in the NHL. So we have to be on it just by out of principle. What do you think here, Matt? Leafs Islanders.
Yeah, love the draw. I'll be riding with the boys. If you can get that over down, if it's a slow start and then, gets down to 5.5, I could easily see this being a 3-3 game. Don't really like either side. If I had to pick, I'd probably lean for Toronto. Obviously you have to lay a little more out there, but and then prop wise, you've got to throw Johnny T to score anytime. Back in New York. I know he's been back a bunch of times, but he's always going to get booed. He's going to love scoring there. I mean,
Yep.
as a player,
I agree.
if you're getting booed, you fucking love it when you do score. You point up to the crowd. So always worth throwing a little on him when he's back in New York.
Yeah, he'd actually never do that because he's too stoic and he's a gentleman. He's a class act, Tavares, but he's also very stoic. He'd never have the guts in him to like show up the crowd, even if they're booing his ass.
And he should. He should, because like the numbers that even and I'm sure the fans really didn't like the fact that he ended up getting his 1,000th point to tie that game last game when they were there, and the bench empty. They had asked the league to do that. They wanted to celebrate with him on the ice all together if he got that done, and he happened to do it. Happened to be the part of the tying goal to send that game in the OT. And I just wanted to make this note too. Talk about these two teams, number 1, number 2 in regulation games played, or games past regulation. Both teams have played a total of 78 combined games this season. Islanders have 40, Toronto has 38. Each team has 15 games going past regulation. So 30 of 78 between these two teams essentially have gone past regulation with these two clubs. So if you don't play a draw all year long, you should be playing the draw when these two teams do.
Yeah, no question. I agree with that. The draw definitely stands out here as far as this game with, again, two of the teams that have gone to overtime more than any in the NHL. You know what? I'm a little bit surprised that because we talk about the Lady Byng Trophy, talking about Tavares and how much of a gentleman he is. I'm surprised he hasn't won that yet, Lady Byng Trophy, John Tavares, because you would think he'd be in the mix for that. But obviously hasn't happened yet for him. But I like over 1.5 points for Tavares, not only to get a goal, but over 1.5 points cashed for me in that game last time he was in Long Island. So we might go back to the well with that. The law firm of Holmstrom and Wallstrom for the New York Islanders. I like both of their props. Holmstrom's been good. Wallstrom's up to the top line tonight. So some changes with Lane Lambert, moving Oliver Wallstrom to the top line tonight for this game alongside the captain Anders Lee and Bo Horvat. So there's definitely some value with props on Oliver Wallstrom tonight in this game. All right, we've got Chicago-Winnipeg next up. Winnipeg Jets minus 400. Huge home favorites. The total 5.5 here in this game. Tough ask for Chicago. I mean, they're just so undermanned at this point in time, especially up front. Difficult to ask them to beat teams of this caliber, especially now on the road. At least at home, they've been feisty. On the road, it's been a lot tougher sledding for the Blackhawks this season, no question. And now they face a Winnipeg team. I give all the credit to the Winnipeg Jets. Columbus had been a thorn in their side off a tricky spot too the other night, where they're off a long road trip, and they put the fucking boots to Columbus. That Winnipeg team. I have no interest, zero, going against Winnipeg again after that one. And again, though, minus 400, where's the value? I'm not so sure. And the Blackhawks are going to want to keep this to a 1-1, 2-1 type deal. So we'll see how this one goes. You know, I would lean slightly to the first period over, but we saw, you know, and Chicago's kind of had some of those, but I like those more at home. Winnipeg, we saw a bit of a slow offensive start against Columbus the other night, so I don't even really love that. So this is really a game that, other than maybe a prop or two, not a whole lot here. What do you think, Alex? Chicago, Winnipeg.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a boring game, and that's the way that the Hawks are going to want it. They have to kind of play low and slow against a lot of teams because they're missing so many guys offensively, and this is definitely one of those teams who have to do it. Problem is, the Jets kind of placate to the Hawks, right? Like years ago when the Hawks were really good during the Showtime dynasty, the Jets would always come in pissed off, angry. They'd be trying to run them over and run them through the boards, and oftentimes we'd end up getting the win. So the Jets were actually a good team to back in this series, and then things faded. They became just completely dominant, but they've been close contests. Just looking at some of you saw the last game with the Hawks at home against the Jets, they won 2-1. The game went past regulation. Matchups last year, 3-1, 4-1, 3-1, where we saw goals coming in late in the contest. Even a 7-2 blowout going back a couple of years ago, it was 1-0 at the end of 20. So we might have time to grab some things in game. We might be able to grab Jets money line if they're down 1-0 after 20 minutes. We can grab both teams to score in the second period. Might even sprinkle a little bit on the full game over now at 5.5. Or you can even wait a little bit later and try to grab some big plus money with that, because you're only going to wait about maybe 2 to 3 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes tops. You can get plus 140 if nothing's going on. So it's a live game that I'll be attacking, but I will be sprinkling on the draw pregame. You can get that as high as plus 490. Whenever you've seen a spot with a team laying 400, you get some really good odds on the draw here. And I think this game could be close enough to where we find it going past regulation. And at plus 450, you can't sneeze at that. You throw some beer money on that one, and that's a good profit if it hits.
It does, and even if it's just a couple bucks. So a small shot here with plus 490. And again, we did see overtime in Chicago. I've got a little less confidence. We'll see it tonight in Winnipeg, but again, plus 490 is a big price if you want to take a shot with that. For me, with props, I'm going to try Blackwell and Rem Pitlick again for Chicago. Blackwell's been good. And Rem Pitlick, man, that's a tough beat the other night against Edmonton. That guy had chance after chance after chance. Rem Pitlick on the top line for the Blackhawks just couldn't find it, the back of the net. But he had chances. And then for Winnipeg, Velarde, yes, but especially Cole Perfetti. Cole Perfetti's the guy right now. 4 goals in the last 3 games, 3-game goal streak coming into tonight. So definitely got to get on Perfetti here tonight for the Jets. What do you think here, Matt, with this one, Chicago-Winnipeg?
Yeah, this one's interesting to me. Just since Hellebuck is confirmed out, and they've got, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Brossoit in net for Brossoit. Yeah. I figured it was French. So, obviously he's got some decent numbers, but he's playing these types of games. It's not like he's playing when they're playing, Colorado, Vegas, Dallas, those types of teams. And Mrazek's. So, Chicago has a shot to stay in this game. I don't know that I like any of the sides. Maybe the over. I feel like
you do say that a 5.5 is an auto over for you. This is going to be put to the test, though. This one,
yeah. I mean, if Hellebuck's playing this game, I would stay off of that at 5.5. But I don't know. I feel like with all the injuries in Chicago, some guys are getting chances to earn contracts. There's obviously going to be some flopping to their lineup. A couple of their low-end guys will be back in the AHL where they probably belong. But, you're giving guys chances to earn 10x their salary in the AHL. So I don't know. I kind of like the over here at 5.5, just also given that it's so rare this season and it tends to hit when I do see it. So I'll probably jump on that. I'll stay off the sides. There's no real value either way. I jokingly put in the chat that Chicago minus 2.5 is plus 1,000. If you think Chicago just goes into Winnipeg and wins by 5, be a hell of a night. And then prop wise, I do like Jason Dickinson. Anytime point, it's plus 115 on Bovada.
That's not a bad one. Yep.
Yeah, getting plus money with him. He's getting big time minutes with all the injuries right now. Former Dallas Star, so always been a fan of him, following him along. But yeah, I feel like he's chipping in, and he's one of those veteran guys that has been there. So, at plus 115 anytime point, I don't hate that. Again, given that Hellebuck's not in net, he's so lights out right now, like it's not even fair. So, that would probably be – I'm going to probably put a little bit on the over and then Dickinson anytime point.
And Dickinson's got, I think, 3-game point streak, 2 goals in the last 3 games. Got their only goal against Edmonton the other night. So I like that look, actually. I might jump on that with Jason Dickinson. Get on that prop there with him, no doubt. He would be someone. But Perfetti for sure stands out for the Winnipeg side, no question, as far as the props in this game. All right, New York Rangers, St. Louis Blues. Rangers minus 170, road favorites, 6 being the total here in this game. As far as goaltending for Rangers Blues, it looks like it's going to be here tonight. Shesterkin and Binnington in between the pipes here in this one. We've got obviously the New York Rangers in bounce back mode after a loss to Vancouver, 2 straight losses, in fact, because they lost in a shootout to Montreal on Saturday. They'll lose 6-3 at home to the Vancouver Canucks in the last game. We've talked about this right now with the Rangers, where right now they're in one of these phases right now as far as totals. 8-2 to the over in their last 10 games, and either they're scoring 3, 4, 5 goals or they're giving up 4, 5, 6 goals. That seems to be the recent theme with the New York Rangers, and one of both of those things are happening, and their games are going over the total. The problem with that is St. Louis has been the other way. They've gone 6 straight under going into this game, the St. Louis Blues. So Rangers are an over machine. Under a machine right now for St. Louis. So what's the tiebreaker? Well, maybe you look head to head, and if you look head to head, 3 of the last 4 have gone over between these two teams. We have seen 5-3, 6-2, 6-4. I do like the over here a little bit. I mean, Shesterkin's still up and down, still trying to find that game in, game out consistency. I don't know if Binnington's going to shut down the New York Rangers, especially coming off a disheartening 6-3 loss. So I'm going to look at the over here, 6. And I'm also going to take Rangers team total over 3.5 plus 105. One of those deals where I don't want the minus 170. No way. I'm not screwing around with regulation or -1 puck lines or any of that nonsense either. I shouldn't say nonsense. They can be good bets, but I just don't want to bother with it. I'm just going to focus on Rangers get 4 goals in a spot where I don't think they take St. Louis lightly off back-to-back losses. So over 6 and also a Rangers team total over 3.5 here for me at plus money. Alex, Rangers Blues.
Yeah, I had to rank for this game over at pointspreads.com. I don't really care for this game too much. There's nothing that's standing out for me, and it's more than likely with a big card going to be a pass.
All right, Matt, Rangers Blues.
Yeah, so I actually have a really good buddy, Sean O'Connor, back in Dallas, that is a diehard Rangers fan. So he's been watching the show since I started jumping on. He gave me some breakdowns. I love the over in this game. I know Binnington, the last 3 outings have been nice. But prior to that, he had given up some big games, and Shesterkin's given up 12 in his last 3. Obviously, the 1 against Chicago, but to give up 5 against Vancouver, 6 against Carolina. Love the over here, and I know you've mentioned this before, Ian, but teams playing against their old team is always an interesting prop. Buchnevich and Hayes, both for the Blues anytime point tonight. And just given what's going on in the media, and we talked about it early in the show, I love Hayes to score in this game. Plus 360, anywhere somewhere around there, plus 360. Probably can get it a little higher depending on where you look. But yeah, and then another one that I think has been hitting a lot lately is the Zibanejad over 2.5 shots. It's even money. I do think New York takes it. I like the team total. I like the over. So I wouldn't be surprised if Zibanejad gets 3 shots on goal in a game that they score 4 or 5 goals. So yeah, but definitely not going to take the Rangers at -170 in case it is a 4-3 game. A 3-3 game goes to overtime. Maybe St. Louis gets lucky. I don't know. So I like the Rangers team total, the game over, and then a couple of those props.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Vinny Trocheck for props for the Rangers. This is the number 1 hottest Ranger forward right now. No question about that. Is what he's doing right now is very impressive. I mean, Panarin's up there too. Don't get me wrong. He's been excellent. But Trocheck in particular, it's just been an explosion for him the last 5 games. 4 goals and a whopping 9 points for Vinny Trocheck here in the last 5 games for the New York Rangers. So absolutely. And, Kevin Hayes, too, to score a goal, not only against his old team, the Rangers, now with St. Louis, but you just get that feeling after all the shit storm with him the last 24 hours and being connected to forcing Cutter Gauthier to want to leave the Flyers and request a trade, that maybe he wants to have a great game on the ice to kind of clear his mind and focus on playing hockey, playing a good game tonight. So that's another reason, and a little intangible that might be on Kevin Hayes' side here as far as finding the back of the net. All right. Well, this has been a monster card. And like I say, we try to keep the show to 90 minutes on these big days. We're getting close to the end, though. 2 games left. Calgary, Arizona. Calgary -130, road favorites, 6 the total, shaded to the over in this game. I think I like the first period over in this game in particular. Flames and Coyotes. Vejmelka, if you look at him, he's going to be in net tonight. I don't love his play nearly as much this season as Connor Ingram for Arizona. Was very good against Boston when they beat the Bruins the other night. 3.13 goals against, 900 save percentage. He ended up giving up 5 goals and a 6-2 loss at home here at Mullet against Winnipeg the last time he started. So don't have the same confidence I have in him. Jacob Markstrom expected, although that's not confirmed. Calgary's had a little offensive surge here lately. 6 against Ottawa, 3 against Chicago, although they lost that game. They put up the 6th spot in Nashville on their road trip. 3 of their last 4 games have gone over. Each of the last 2 meetings between these teams last year went over the total. Both of the meetings here at Mullet Arena in Arizona. We saw 6-3 Calgary in one game, and we saw 4-3 Arizona in the other. So I do like the full game over, but I like that first period over, I think, even more. in this particular spot, because I definitely think the goals could come early. And Calgary's been hitting some of these first period overs lately. Once again, they had a little run there for a while where the first period over was hitting. And now you start to see what we've seen from them. That Calgary-Nashville road trip game, it was 6-3, and we saw a ton of goals in the first period. Not so much with the Philly game, but then Chicago game over the weekend, we saw the over hit in that opening period. The Ottawa-Calgary game, the goals were flying left and right in the first period of that game. So first period, full game over. I lean to the first period over being the stronger of the two. What do you think here, Alex? Flames, Coyotes.
Yeah, that's the only play I have is the first period over 1.5 minus $1.30. And I get where people are looking at, okay, well, Calgary has been a hot team in the first period over 7-3 their last 10. Arizona, not so much, but Arizona, you look at what, that game against Boston, there were tons of chances there early in the contest. And if you look at Arizona's numbers in the first period, looking at a chart provided by Chris Otto, shout out to him, they are fifth. Calgary Flames are fourth in goals allowed in the first period, 1.15. Arizona right in the middle of the pack, slowly creeping up toward averaging a goal per game in the first period. So when you have those two kind of contrasting things, you're seeing the Flames being a high first period over team, but you're seeing a team like Arizona, things are starting to kind of turn around with them in that department. They're starting to get goals early. And like I said, the goaltending hasn't been the same. Karel Vejmelka has completely fallen off the face of the earth compared to what we're seeing from Connor Ingram. He's got that good of a goaltender. Said that for a while. And he's definitely one we can back. And, of course, we know with Calgary Flames, you look at, either Markstrom or Vladar, they've just had issues early giving up goals. It's not necessarily the first or second shot of the game like it was last season, but they get traffic in front early, and they tend to find themselves giving up a goal within the first 20 minutes. So good price, good spot going first period over.
All right, there you go. Sharon Govich, Coleman, Zary, they're all goal prop candidates for me tonight for Calgary for sure, with what we've seen out of them. And even Huberdeau, who's been better of late. And then for Arizona, I'm going back to the well with for Arizona. We're going back to Dylan Guenther, man. This guy has been a spark. And you wonder why Arizona now, Arizona's issue a few games ago was their offense went dormant. 2 goals against Anaheim, 1 against Florida, 1 against the Islanders. They call this guy up, and all of a sudden he scored in back-to-back games against Winnipeg and Boston for this Arizona Coyotes team. So, and he is a finisher. He has a very good shot, a very good release, and he has put it to good use with back-to-back goals here since his recall against the Jets and the Bruins. So, absolutely interested in that. Carcone's cooled off, Cuban. That's the problem. We rode the Carcone Express for a while, but he's fallen back to earth a bit. I think it's now 12 or 13 in a row without a goal for him. So it's not for me, that Carcone, but I wish you luck if you bet it. What do you think here, Matt? Calgary, Arizona.
Love the over. Love the first period over, especially hearing more on how those are both going for both teams. And if I did have to pick a side, knowing that this game's at Mullet Arena, I think I lean towards the Coyotes. You're getting good value at plus 110. I know they've got a pretty good home record rolling. Calgary's got a losing record on the road. Again, because it's plus 110, I may sprinkle that side. I think they have a good chance to win this game. But this could also be maybe a draw candidate. I don't know that I'll take it, but I think it's going to be a close game. I do think the over hits. I could see like a 4-3 game, and it could go either way. So if you're going to pick a side, I'd go Coyotes. But yeah, definitely going to be on the over in the first period over.
Yeah, those are my primary bets. I'm going to sprinkle just a tad on the draw as well. There's other draws I like.
Last meeting.
It hit last meeting. That's what I was thinking. And we did see a overtime with Boston and Arizona, of course, the other night as well in that. So I'm going to add the draw to the tab as well in this Flames and Coyotes
game. You know what?
Game.
One thing to mention about that too. Yeah. Calgary is a team where, like I said, they're right on that cusp. More than likely going to be outside of the wild card race, and they're probably going to be sellers. But they're right now not really believing that. So there's some teams that we'll see fall out of the playoff race in the next 4 to 5 weeks. But they'll be playing those tight games, trying to get as many points as possible, a lot like what we'll see and say after the All-Star break with teams that are definitely in the playoff hunt but trying to secure division spots or wild card spots, getting points. So that little fade of looking at teams holding on to leads late We could be seeing that with teams like Calgary, teams like a Minnesota, teams that know we're falling out of favor, but if we're still close in a game, let's play this tight and let's try to at least get 8 points secured. So something to keep in mind, especially going against Arizona, a team that will be in that wild card race for longer than expected.
Yeah, no doubt. That's an excellent point. All right, we got the Boston Bruins and the Vegas Golden Knights, the Bruce Cassidy Bowl right here to wrap up the night. We've got the Bruins minus 130, road favorites, 6 being the total here in this game. Of course, Bruce Cassidy's current team versus his former team matched up here in this one. I mean, just a devastating loss for Arizona. Not devastating in terms of, season's over. Devastating in terms of you lost a game where you were back and forth, had a chance to win, and you lost multiple key players as well to injury. Matthew Patra, who came back from the Canadian World Junior team, he's out. Brandon Carlo on IR following an injury in that game. Linus Allmark injured in overtime, had to be helped off the ice. Jeremy Swayman had to come in overtime, and obviously first shot he faces, and it goes in overtime. Tough spot for him in that loss to Arizona. So a little bit of adversity here for this Boston team. Swayman in net tonight. He's had a good season overall. Not nearly as sharp lately, but this Vegas team, man, I don't think I can trust them here. Back to back after a bad game last night against Colorado. They got dominated. They really did. And, the 3-0 is actually flattering to Vegas. It could have been a lot worse than that if not for Jiri Patera. It should be Logan Thompson in net here on the back-to-back. We'll see. Although, keep an eye on this. Logan Thompson has had an illness, which kept him out last night. Aiden Hill was expected to return last night, and suddenly he was a late scratch, even though he was initially going to make his return last night. So is he even available? Last night it was Jiri Patera and Isaiah Seville called up from Henderson, to be the 2 goalies. So this is just let's wait to see who the hell is going to be in net for the Golden Knights, because it could be a bunch of different possibilities right now. I actually lean to Boston here. I got just a small feeling here that the Bruins, with the adversity and the injuries, for one night they put it aside. They know they have a tough loss against Colorado, tough loss against Arizona, the first 2 games of this road trip. And they'll be looking to respond here in this game against the Vegas Golden Knights team that they're 3-8 in the last 11 games, Vegas. So not with a ton of confidence, or certainly not close to one of my favorite, looks of the night, but I definitely lean to the Bruins here in this one at minus 130. But again, I'm waiting to see what the goaltending situation ends up being. Draw, I don't hate the draw either in this one. What do you think, Alex? Bruins, Golden Knights.
Yeah, that's what I grabbed. I grabbed the regulation draw plus 350. And I also like this first period over 1.5 minus $1.25. Like I said, with all the uncertainty going on with Vegas and net, really any of these 4 guys you throw in, I'm not really trusting at the moment. Either you're talking about a injured and sick Aiden Hill, a sick Logan Thompson, Jiri Patera, who played last night, or Isaiah Seville, who I really don't have much of a playbook on, to be truthfully honest. So that being said, at $1.25, and I know these are 2 teams that like to play a little bit lower and slower early in the contest, but keep in mind too, you saw this game last year, both meetings last year, they were hotly contested, and rightfully so, because you mentioned about Cassidy, coming over from Vegas and Boston, and we saw Vegas get the 4-3 win past regulation in Boston, but Boston got a 3-1 win in Vegas last year. So there could be something there, to that. I wouldn't read too much into it. I don't think it's going to be anything like it was the first meeting. I think that's kind of gotten out of the way. But in saying that, I do expect a close contest. So first period over, 1.5 minus $1.25. I'll also be grabbing both teams to score in the first. And I'll also go with the regulation draw. You can get it plus, I'm seeing plus 350, plus 360.
All right, goals early. Both teams to score, first period over, and the draw. For Alex here with the Bruins and the Golden Knights. For props, Dorofeev, I'm going back to the well. Second line, he didn't score against Colorado, and a feeble effort from the whole team. But back home, Dorofeev's live, I think, to score a goal for the Golden Knights. And then for Boston, there's some good options. Like I say, we've still got Geeky, that's, I believe, still centering the top line for them. No, actually, he's not. He's down to the third line now. But Frederick is cooled off a little, but I still wouldn't hate taking a shot there. I would go with Jesper Boquist, man. We've got a great situation here, moving up to the top line for Boston here tonight, and he scored against Arizona as well. one of the goals in that 4-3 loss to the Coyotes. And Jesper Boquist is going to be on the top line tonight for the Bruins alongside Pavel Zacha and David Pastrnak. So terrific value for Jesper Boquist as he moves up to that top line for the Boston Bruins tonight. I'm just going to give you the price. It's a great price. Plus 800 at Patano. Are you shitting me? Plus 800 for a top line player tonight? The Boston Bruins, Jesper Boquist. Write that shit. I think that's what Matt's doing right now. Writing that down. Jesper Boquist plus 800 at Patano. That's the best price out there. There's still 600 at FanDuel, 500 at DraftKings, 750 at BetMGM. I mean, for a guy that's on the top line, that's a must. That's a must. And we saw him score against Arizona last game as well. Matt, what do you think here? Boston, Vegas.
This is one that I do like the over, especially if you get it at 6. I've seen it at 6.5. I don't know if I'd take it there. I do love the first period over as well. And I also tend to lean Boston. They have a couple injuries. Vegas is more injured, in my opinion. Vegas is coming off the back-to-back in the altitude. They, like you mentioned, it could have been 6-7 nothing last night. So I tend to lean Boston here. I don't know if I'll play them. I probably will at minus 130. I think they get the win tonight. It may go to overtime, but I think they end up, on top at the end of the game. But yeah, I do like the over. I think, I could see both teams scoring 3 goals, no problem. So yeah, that's going to be my play.
I want to know, I'm going to keep track of what Vegas's record ends up being without William Karlsson, because he's been out for 3 straight games now, and he was great before he got injured. They're 1-2 in the first 3 games without him. The only win was the Islander game over the weekend, and they lost the other 2 against Florida and Colorado. So that's a big absence. And of course, they're also, Michael Amadio is a game time decision. They're already without, still Theodore on the back end. So there's concerns right now with the Vegas Golden Knights and their level of play lately, no doubt. All right, that's the Thursday card. What a huge slate it is. Hit the like button. We appreciate it. 273 live viewers. Patreon.com/IceGuys, just $10 per month. Again, we've got all kinds of great stuff there. Our daily sides, totals, and player props betting card is posted there. And of course, goalie charts, totals charts, and more. We've got bonus videos, exclusive content on the way in the new year. And our first exclusive Patreon live betcast is coming your way late in January. We won't reveal the date. We will drop the YouTube link for the betcast on the Patreon page the day of the betcast. It's going to be a surprise, but we're looking forward to that. So make sure you sign up. $10 per month means you help us keep this show going for a very long time. $10 per month, patreon.com/IceGuys. And of course, our main betcast for the month of January, free for all, open to the public, next Tuesday, January 16th. It's only 5 days away, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be here. Alex will be here for it. Matt has told me he's going to be here for it Tuesday night. Matt, your first ever betcast. Are you fired up?
Oh yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to crack a beer with the boys, do some live betting, shoot the shit. It's going to be a time. So very excited.
That's essentially what it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. Shoot the shit, watch the games, ton of live bets, and it's a lot of fun as well. So Tuesday night, January 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern time, DM me or Alex or email us for a spot on the Ice Guys live betcast next Tuesday, January 16th. And we will make sure that you get a spot with us on the betcast. All right. It is time for Bargain Bin Special of the night. And obviously on a card of this magnitude, there is lots to choose from in that bargain bin. Alex, what have you come up with? Bargain Bin Special of the night.
Yeah, we got the Hawks game tonight against Winnipeg, and it probably won't be, too much fun to watch. But I think there's one Hawk we can kind of count on right now, and you mentioned it earlier, Jason Dickinson, the trooper. He's the only guy who's really, other than Colin Blackwell, been kind of carrying their weight and playing like somebody who deserves to be a top 6 forward and someone who deserves to be on this team after this season. So in saying that, I'm going with him plus 320. You can get that at BetMGM and FanDuel. Anytime goal, the trooper Jason Dickinson for the Hawks tonight.
There you go, Jason Dickinson. Liking that. You can get Jason Dickinson for Chicago for Bargain Bin Special of the night. It looks like the best available price out there on him right now, around plus 370 at Bet Rivers. So still a very good price with that. Matt, what do you got here for your bargain bin tonight?
All I can say is I'm glad I wrote 2 down because I liked Dickinson anytime goal scorer. So that was one I've got written down. So I love that. I'm going to go back to what we were talking about with the whole Torts situation. I think Hazy anytime goal scorer. I've seen it anywhere from plus 350 to plus 380. There's probably higher out there, but I think he comes out and scores today. Just, dealing with all this media bullshit. He's going to say, fuck you guys, and bury one on New York. So.
There you go. Plus 420 upwards of that plus 420
nice.
at Patano with Kevin Hayes for St. Louis for Matt with his bargain bin special of the night. And mine, I actually had mine picked before the show, and it was initially going to be Dylan Guenther, and I really like Dylan Guenther, Arizona plus 375. He will be on my ticket, but I'm going for the gusto after what I just saw about the game we just talked about with Boston and Vegas. I am not passing up a guy on the top line now with Pasternak and Zacha, who scored in the last game as well against Arizona. I'm not passing him up at plus 800. And that's Jesper Boquist for the Boston Bruins. Plus 800 at Patano. Jesper Boquist, a huge bargain bin special choice for me. Looking forward to that. Boston Bruins, Jesper Boquist, plus 800 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets. To wrap things up, Alex, what do you like for best bet?
This is tough because I got to look through. I got a lot of things to go over. I'm probably more than likely going to be going with my favorite play here. This is Seattle. Seattle Kraken right now against Washington. This is a Kraken team. We've been waiting for them to finally break out of their shell, get things rolling, and now they're playing against a Capitals team that might be shorthanded with Ovechkin and amongst others. And Capitals team is just not that good. So we're going to go with the money line here. You can get it as cheap as $1.22 at FanDuel. I'm seeing mostly $1.25s that are around. That's kind of the consensus price. So Seattle Kraken money line. That's my best bet tonight.
All right, there we go. Seattle minus 125 against Washington. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. Matt, great job again. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, so this was my first bet I took off the whole slate. I like Montreal puck line minus 1.5. You're getting it at like plus 130, plus 135. If you don't want to risk the puck line, you can still get in it. Like, I think it's minus 140, minus 150. But 10 of the last 12 games against San Jose, they've lost by over a goal and a half, over 2 goals. So yeah, Montreal minus 1.5 puck line. Let's go. Let's get it.
Yep. Sometimes keep it simple. Stupid is the best way to go about it. And yeah, beating San Jose is pretty simple, but it's been working. Montreal minus 1.5 puck line against San Jose. Best bet for Matt Robinson. My best bet for this card, I'm going to go with that Rangers Blues over 6 minus 120. I like it. Rangers have been trending over. The Blues, not so much, but we've got series history trending over. And I think tonight it's one of those nights the Rangers might unload. I like the Ranger team total as well. I'm going to go with that full game over 6 with New York, St. Louis for my best bet for this Thursday card. That's a wrap. A huge show, a great show. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. 300 live viewers just about. We really do thank you guys for tuning in with us on a Thursday. Great viewership, great turnout. Our betcast next Tuesday night. Make sure you get ready for that. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Matt Robinson, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow. Me, Alex, and Jimmy Murphy. Why? Because it's a Beantown Friday coming up tomorrow. Make sure you join us tomorrow for a Beantown Friday edition of the Ice Guys.